grand halls of the royal palace shimmered with opulence, every surface adorned in gold and crystalline materials that caught the light like 1,000 tiny suns. The air was thick with anticipation as servants scurried about, their footsteps muffled by plush carpets woven from fibers native to the princess's home planet. A world where colors shifted depending on one's mood. At the center of it all stood Princess Elira, her ethereal beauty unmatched even by the most dazzling treasures around her. Her long silver hair cascaded down her back, glowing faintly under the artificial sky projected above the palace dome. She wore an intricate gown made of liquid metal threads that seemed to ripple with each breath she took. Elira had been promised to someone far beyond her own kind, a human named Callan. It wasn't love or romance that brought them together but necessity. Her people faced extinction due to dwindling resources, while Earth offered untapped potential for survival. Marrying into humanity would secure peace treaties, trade agreements, and perhaps even salvation. Callan had arrived weeks ago, quiet and reserved, speaking only when spoken to. He carried himself with humility, almost blending into the background despite his towering height and broad shoulders. To Elira he seemed ordinary, not unkind, just simple. A stark contrast to the flamboyant warriors and diplomats who usually graced her court. But there was something unsettling about him too. His eyes, though calm, held a depth that hinted at secrets buried beneath layers of silence. And then there was the sword strapped to his hip, a relic from his world, according to him. No one questioned why he carried it. Humans were known for their peculiar traditions. Still, Elira couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this man than met the eye. Tonight marked the official celebration of their union, a lavish feast attended by dignitaries from across galaxies. As Elira descended the spiraling staircase leading to the banquet hall, whispers filled the room. Her presence commanded awe, yet tonight, her mind wandered elsewhere. What did she truly know about this stranger she called husband? Was he content living among aliens so different from him? Or was he simply biding his time until he could return to his mundane existence on Earth? Callan stood near the entrance, dressed in ceremonial robes tailored specifically for him. They fit awkwardly, as if he'd rather be wearing anything else. When he noticed her approach, he bowed slightly, his movements deliberate and respectful. "You look stunning," he said softly, his voice barely audible over the hum of conversation. "Thank you," Elira replied, forcing a smile. She searched his face for any sign of emotion beyond politeness but found none. "Are you ready?" He nodded once, gripping the hilt of his sword instinctively. "As I'll ever be." Before she could respond, trumpets blared, signaling the start of the feast. Servants poured in carrying trays laden with exotic dishes, delicacies harvested from planets light years apart. Guests began filling their plates, laughter mingling with clinking glasses. Yet through it all, Elira couldn't help but glance at Callan periodically. Something about him gnawed at her curiosity, like a puzzle waiting to be solved. Hours passed in a blur of music, dancing, and polite chatter. Just as Elira thought the evening might end without incident, chaos erupted. A loud crash echoed through the hall as one of the massive crystal chandeliers shattered, sending shards raining down on the guests below. Screams filled the air as everyone scrambled for cover. Amidst the confusion, dark figures emerged from the shadows. Assassins clad in sleek armor, their weapons gleaming menacingly. Panic surged through Elira as she realized what was happening. This was no random attack. These intruders moved with precision, targeting specific individuals, including herself. Without hesitation, she reached for the ceremonial dagger hidden beneath her gown, prepared to defend her life if necessary. But before she could act, a figure stepped between her and the nearest assassin. It was Callan. Time seemed to slow as he drew his sword in one fluid motion. The blade sang as it left its scabbard, catching the dim emergency lights with a silvery glow. For a moment, everything went silent, the panicked cries of the crowd fading into the background. Then Callan struck, moving faster than anyone could have anticipated. His first swing cleaved through the assassin's weapon, shattering it into pieces. A second strike sent the attacker sprawling to the ground, unconscious. Elira stared, wide-eyed, unable to process what she was seeing. This wasn't the quiet, unassuming man she'd married. This was someone entirely different, a warrior whose skill rivaled that of her finest guards. Around them, other assassins lunged forward, but Callan didn't falter. With practiced ease, he parried blows, countered attacks, and disarmed opponents with efficiency that bordered on artistry. Each movement was calculated, precise, and utterly devastating. "What are you doing?" Alira demanded, her voice trembling. Not out of fear, but disbelief. "Who are you?" Callan spared her a brief glance, his expression grim yet focused. "Saving your life," he said simply before turning back to the fray. Another assassin charged at him, dual blades flashing in the dim light. Callan sidestepped effortlessly, spinning around to deliver a blow that knocked the assailant off balance. Before the man could recover, Callan's boot connected with his chest, sending him crashing into a nearby table. By now, the royal guards had joined the fight, but they were struggling to keep up. The assassins were well-trained, their tactics designed to overwhelm. Yet Callan fought as if he'd faced such threats countless times before. Every step he took exuded confidence. Every strike carried the weight of experience. Even the captain of the guard paused mid-battle to watch in stunned admiration. Alira, meanwhile, felt a mixture of emotions swirling inside her. Part of her wanted to flee, to find safety away from the violence, but another part refused to leave Callan's side. Instead, she tightened her grip on her dagger and scanned the room for any remaining threats. That's when she noticed something odd. One of the assassins wasn't fighting. Instead, he stood near the far wall, watching the scene unfold with cold detachment. His gaze locked onto hers, and a chill ran down her spine. "Callan!" she shouted, pointing toward the figure. "Over there!" Without missing a beat, Callan turned his attention to the new target. But the assassin didn't wait for him to approach. Instead, he raised a device in his hand, a small orb pulsing with ominous energy, and activated it. A blinding flash erupted, engulfing the entire hall in white light. When Alira's vision cleared moments later, the assassin was gone, along with several others. Only the wounded and unconscious remained. Breathing heavily, Callan sheathed his sword and approached her. Blood trickled from a shallow cut on his arm, but otherwise, he appeared unharmed. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low and urgent. "Yes," Alira replied, still trying to steady her racing heart. "But how did you do that? You're not just some human diplomat, are you?" Callan hesitated, his jaw tightening. For the first time since the battle began, he looked uncertain. "No," he admitted finally. "I'm not." Before he could elaborate further, alarms blared throughout the palace, signaling a lockdown. Reinforcements would arrive soon, but the damage had already been done. Questions swirled in Alira's mind, threatening to overwhelm her. Why had these assassins targeted her? Who were they working for? And most importantly, what secrets was Callan hiding? As order slowly returned to the banquet hall, Alira found herself seated in a private chamber adjacent to the main hall, her thoughts racing faster than the medics tending to the injured outside. Callan sat across from her, his posture rigid, his hands clasped tightly together. The silence between them stretched thin, heavy with unspoken truths. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, Alira leaned forward, her piercing violet eyes locking onto his. "Enough," she said sharply, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "Tell me who you really are, Callan, because the man I married wouldn't have stood a chance against those assassins." Callan sighed deeply, running a hand through his short-cropped hair. "You're right," he admitted, his tone resigned. "The man you married doesn't exist. That was just a cover. A carefully constructed lie meant to keep my true identity hidden." He paused, searching her face for signs of anger or betrayal, but found only determination. Taking a deep breath, he continued. "My real name is Cale Draven. I'm not just human. I'm part of an elite intergalactic task force known as the Vanguard. We operate in secret, protecting civilizations from threats they don't even know exist." Alira's eyebrows shot up. "An elite task force? And you've been posing as a diplomat this whole time?" "Not exactly," Cale corrected. "When intelligence suggested your kingdom might become a target for hostile factions, I was sent undercover to assess the situation. Marrying you was never part of the plan. It was supposed to be a temporary arrangement to gain access to the inner workings of your government. But things changed when I got to know you." Her expression softened slightly, though suspicion lingered. "And the sword? Surely that wasn't standard issue for a diplomat." Cale chuckled humorlessly, reaching for the weapon at his side. "This?" he asked, holding it up for her to see. "It's called the Starblade, forged centuries ago on Earth using alien technology. It's been passed down through generations of my family, each wielder bound by a sacred oath to protect the innocent. I carry it because it's both a tool and a symbol, a reminder of why I do what I do. Alira studied the blade, its surface etched with intricate runes that pulsed faintly with energy. Despite herself, she felt a surge of admiration for the craftsmanship, and for the man wielding it. So you're telling me you're some kind of cosmic knight? Sent here to save us from shadowy villains? In a nutshell, yes, Kale replied, leaning back in his chair, though I'd prefer cosmic problem solver. The truth is, we intercepted communications suggesting a powerful organization has set its sights on your realm. They believe your planet holds something valuable, something worth killing for. And what exactly would that be? Alira pressed, her curiosity piqued. That's what I've been trying to figure out, Kale confessed. Your archives contain ancient texts detailing advanced technologies lost to time. If someone managed to decode them, they could tip the balance of power across the galaxy. Which means whoever orchestrated tonight's attack isn't going to stop until they get what they want, or eliminate anyone standing in their way. Alira mulled this over, her mind racing with possibilities. If what you say is true, then my people are in grave danger. But why didn't you tell me sooner? Didn't you think I deserved to know? I wanted to, Kale admitted, his voice tinged with regret. But revealing my identity too early could have jeopardized everything. Trust is hard enough to earn without throwing deception into the mix. Besides, I didn't want to put you in harm's way unnecessarily. Well, you failed spectacularly at that last part, Alira quipped dryly, earning a wry smile from Kale. Still, I suppose I should thank you for saving my life. Again. Don't mention it, he replied lightly, though his expression grew serious once more. But understand this. Keeping you safe won't be easy. These people are dangerous and they play dirty. If we're going to stop them, we'll need to work together and trust each other completely. For a moment, neither spoke, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Then Alira nodded slowly, resolve hardening in her gaze. Very well. But know this, Kale Draven. If you're lying to me, there will be consequences. My loyalty to my people comes first, always. Understood, Kale said solemnly. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry for deceiving you. I never intended to hurt you, Alira. Quite the opposite, actually. She tilted her head, intrigued despite herself. What do you mean? He hesitated, then shrugged self-consciously. Let's just say pretending to be your husband wasn't entirely unpleasant. In fact, it gave me a glimpse of what I might have missed out on if I'd stayed focused solely on the mission. Alira blinked, caught off guard by the unexpected vulnerability in his tone. Well, she said after a pause, allowing a small smile to tug at her lips. Considering you just saved my life and possibly my entire kingdom, I suppose I can forgive you. For now. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. One of Alira's advisors entered, looking flustered. Your Highness, urgent news. The assassin who escaped left behind traces of a tracking signal. Our security team traced it to coordinates outside the capital. Kale rose immediately, his demeanor shifting back to professional. That's our lead. Let's move before they realize we're onto them. Alira stood as well, determination blazing in her eyes. Then let's go. Together, with newfound purpose, they exited the chamber, ready to confront whatever awaited them beyond the palace walls. The journey to the coordinates led them through winding corridors and dimly lit maintenance tunnels beneath the palace, a route chosen deliberately to avoid detection. Kale moved with practiced stealth, his boots making barely a sound against the metallic flooring, while Alira followed close behind, her gown replaced by practical attire better suited for combat. She carried a compact blaster tucked into her belt, a gift from Kale earlier that evening. Just in case, he'd said with a wry grin. Now, she gripped it firmly, her pulse quickening with each step. Do you think they'll be expecting us? Alira whispered as they neared a rusted service hatch leading outside. They probably suspect we'll investigate, Kale replied, his voice low but steady. But they won't expect two people coming after them alone. Most operatives rely on backup teams, drones, or overwhelming firepower. Going in quietly gives us an edge, if we play it right. Alira nodded, though unease prickled at the edges of her resolve. And if we don't play it right? Then we improvise, he said simply, flashing her a reassuring smile. Trust me, I've gotten out of worse scrapes than this. Somehow, that didn't reassure her as much as he intended. Pushing open the hatch, they emerged into the cool night air, the cityscape sprawling before them bathed in the soft glow of twin moons. The coordinates pointed to an abandoned industrial district on the outskirts of the capital, a labyrinth of crumbling factories and derelict warehouses. Shadows danced across broken windows and twisted metal frames, creating an eerie tableau that seemed almost alive. "This place looks like it hasn't seen activity in decades," Alira remarked, scanning the desolate landscape. "Why would they choose somewhere so decrepit?" "Because no one pays attention to ruins," Kale explained, adjusting the strap of the utility pack slung over his shoulder. "It's perfect for hiding things, or people, you don't want found. Plus, the structural instability makes it harder for pursuers to navigate safely." Alira frowned. "You make it sound like you've done this before. More times than I care to count," he admitted with a shrug. "Old habits die hard." They pressed onward, weaving between jagged debris and rusting machinery. Every few steps, Kale paused to examine the ground, searching for signs of recent activity. Eventually, he crouched beside a set of faint footprints partially obscured by dust. "Fresh tracks," he murmured, tracing the outline with his fingers. "2 sets, maybe 3. They're heading deeper into the complex." "Lead the way," Alira urged, her grip tightening on her blaster. "But stay sharp. If they're expecting trouble, they'll have traps laid out." "Agreed," Kale replied, rising to his feet. "Stick close and keep your eyes peeled. We don't know what we're walking into." The deeper they ventured, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The air grew heavier, tinged with the faint metallic tang of decay. Strange noises echoed around them. Creaks, groans, and the occasional skitter of unseen creatures scurrying through the darkness. Alira felt her nerves fray with each passing moment, though she refused to let it show. Instead, she focused on the rhythm of her breathing, willing herself to remain calm. Suddenly, Kale froze, raising a hand to signal silence. Ahead, a faint orange glow flickered through cracks in the wall of a nearby warehouse. Voices drifted toward them, muffled but distinct. Angry, hurried exchanges laced with urgency. "They're inside," Kale whispered, gesturing for Alira to take cover behind a stack of crates. "We need to get closer without being spotted." "How do you propose we do that?" she hissed back, glancing nervously at the exposed stretch of ground separating them from the building. Kale grinned, pulling a small device from his utility pack. "Leave that to me." Moments later, a series of sharp pops erupted from the direction of the warehouse, accompanied by shouts of alarm. Smoke billowed outward as the occupants scrambled to investigate the source of the disturbance. Seizing the opportunity, Kale darted forward, dragging Alira along with him. They slipped through a side entrance unnoticed, slipping into the shadows just as the commotion died down. Inside, the scene unfolded like something out of a nightmare. Crates stamped with unfamiliar insignias lined the walls, their contents spilling forth in chaotic heaps. Weapons, data drives, and strange artifacts gleaming ominously in the dim light. In the center of the room, a group of figures huddled around a holographic display, arguing heatedly. Alira recognized one of them instantly, Counselor Varn, a trusted advisor within her own court. "Traitor!" she spat under her breath, her fists clenching in fury. Kale placed a steadying hand on her arm. "Not yet," he cautioned. "We need proof. Otherwise, he'll deny everything and turn this back on you." Reluctantly, Alira nodded, swallowing her anger. Together, they crept closer, careful to stay hidden among the clutter. As they drew nearer, snippets of conversation became clearer. "Time is running out," Varn growled, pacing anxiously. "The princess grows suspicious. If she uncovers the truth." "She won't," another voice interrupted. A woman cloaked in black armor, her features obscured by a visor. "Our agents ensured the distraction worked perfectly. By now, the palace should be crawling with investigators. They'll never connect this location to the attack." "But what about the human?" Varn snapped. "He's not some fool easily misled. If he suspects anything, he's dealt with," the woman assured him coldly. "Our tracker confirms his presence here. Once we eliminate him, the princess will be vulnerable, and the artifact will be ours." Alira stiffened, her heart pounding. "Artifact?" she mouthed silently to Kale, who responded with a grim nod. "The thing they're after," he whispered back. "Whatever it is, it's important enough to kill for." As if sensing their presence, the woman suddenly turned, her head tilting unnaturally as though listening for something. Then, without warning, she raised her weapon and fired. A bolt of energy sizzling past Kale's ear, narrowly missing him. "Found you?" she sneered, advancing toward their hiding spot. Behind her, Varn paled visibly, stammering denials as the rest of the group scattered. Kale stepped forward, drawing his starblade in one smooth motion. "Looks like the party's starting early," he said, his tone deceptively casual. "Care to dance?" The woman laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Foolish mortal, you stand no chance against me." "We'll see about that," Kale replied, launching himself at her with startling speed. Their weapons clashed in a shower of sparks, the clash reverberating through the cavernous space. Around them, chaos erupted as reinforcements poured in, forcing Alira to spring into action. Dodging blasts and grappling with attackers, she fought with a ferocity born of desperation. Each strike fueled by the knowledge that failure meant doom not just for herself, but for everyone she loved. And amidst the turmoil, she couldn't help but marvel at Kale's prowess. He moved like a force of nature, his blade carving through enemies with lethal precision. But even as hope flickered to life, doubt lingered. Could they truly prevail against such odds? Or were they merely delaying the inevitable? In the midst of the chaos, a revelation struck Alira like a thunderbolt. As she ducked behind a toppled crate to reload her blaster, she caught sight of something glinting faintly in the corner of the warehouse. A pedestal bearing an object shrouded in a translucent energy field. It pulsed rhythmically, emitting a soft hum that resonated deep within her chest. Recognition dawned, and with it came horror. "The Celestial Codex," she breathed, her voice barely audible over the din of battle. "Thereafter the Celestial Codex." Kale, locked in combat with the armored woman, spared her a fleeting glance. "What is that?" he demanded, parrying a vicious strike. "It's an ancient relic from my people's history," Alira explained urgently, firing off another shot to clear a path toward the artifact. "Legends say it contains knowledge capable of reshaping reality itself. If they unlock its secrets, they could destroy entire civilizations," Kale finished grimly, understanding dawning in his eyes. "We can't let them take it." With renewed determination, they redoubled their efforts, fighting their way closer to the pedestal. But their adversaries weren't about to surrender their prize so easily. Reinforcements streamed in from hidden entrances, overwhelming them with sheer numbers. Alira gritted her teeth, dodging a flurry of energy bolts as she closed the distance to the codex. Kale, meanwhile, fought valiantly to hold off waves of attackers, his movements growing increasingly strained as fatigue set in. "Almost there," Alira shouted, reaching for the control panel embedded in the pedestal. Her fingers flew over the interface, attempting to disable the energy field. But the system resisted, requiring multiple layers of authentication. "Hurry!" Kale yelled, taking a hit to his shoulder that sent him stumbling backward. Blood seeped through his torn sleeve, but he refused to yield, driving forward with relentless tenacity. "I'm trying," Alira snapped, frustration mounting as the countdown timer on the panel ticked ominously downward. "There's some kind of override protocol. They must have triggered it remotely, then break it manually," Kale barked, delivering a crushing blow to one of the assassins before spinning to deflect another attack. "Use your blade." "My what?" Alira exclaimed incredulously, but there was no time to argue. Summoning every ounce of courage, she plunged her ceremonial dagger into the panel, shorting out the circuitry with a burst of sparks. The energy field flickered, then dissolved, leaving the codex exposed. Before she could celebrate, however, a deafening roar shook the warehouse, followed by a massive explosion that tore through the far wall. Dust and debris filled the air, obscuring everything in a choking haze. When the smoke cleared, a towering figure loomed in the breach, a biomechanical monstrosity bristling with weapons and glowing red eyes. "Oh no," Kale muttered, his expression grim. "They called in the big guns." The creature advanced with terrifying speed, its mechanical limbs whirring as it unleashed a barrage of firepower. Alira dove for cover, clutching the codex tightly to her chest. "What is that thing?" "A hunter-killer construct," Kale replied tersely, rolling to avoid a blast that scorched the ground where he'd been standing moments earlier. "Designed to eliminate high-value targets without mercy." "And how exactly do we stop it?" Alira demanded, her voice rising in panic. "One step at a time," Kale answered, grabbing her wrist and hauling her to her feet. "First we survive, then we adapt." Together, they sprinted toward the exit, the construct hot on their heels. Its laser cannons carved swaths of destruction through the warehouse, collapsing support beams and sending chunks of ceiling crashing down around them. Alira stumbled, nearly dropping the codex, but Kale caught her arm, steadying her. "Don't let go of that," he ordered, his tone leaving no room for argument. "It's our only bargaining chip now." Eyes widening, Alira clutched the artifact tighter, realization dawning. "You mean?" "Yes," Kale confirmed grimly. "If we can't destroy it, we negotiate. But first, we need leverage." Reaching the edge of the warehouse, they leaped through a shattered window, landing hard on the cracked pavement outside. Behind them, the construct smashed through the wall, relentless in its pursuit. Alira glanced around frantically, searching for anything they could use to their advantage. "There!" she cried, pointing to a nearby crane towering above the ruins. "If we can lure it under that, maybe we can collapse the structure on top of it." "Good thinking," Kale praised, already calculating angles and trajectories. "I'll draw its fire. You get into position." "No way," Alira shot back, shaking her head vehemently. "You're injured, and I'm not letting you sacrifice yourself again. This time, we face it together." For a moment, Kale hesitated, caught off guard by her defiance. Then, a slow smile spread across his face. "All right, Your Highness. Together it is." Side by side, they raced toward the crane, the construct closing in with terrifying speed. Energy beams seared the ground around them, forcing them to zigzag unpredictably. Just as they reached the base of the crane, Kale activated a remote detonator hidden in his utility pack. "Now!" he shouted, yanking Alira behind a pile of rubble as explosives planted earlier detonated with a thunderous boom. The crane groaned, its massive frame swaying precariously before crashing down onto the construct with a resounding crash. Sparks flew as the machine struggled futilely against the weight pinning it in place. "We did it!" Alira gasped, sinking to her knees in relief. "We actually did it." "Not quite," Kale cautioned, helping her to her feet. "That'll buy us time, but reinforcements are likely on the way. We need to move, and fast." Nodding, Alira allowed him to guide her away from the wreckage, the codex still clutched securely in her arms. As they disappeared into the shadows, the distant wail of sirens signaled the arrival of palace guards. For now, they were safe, but the battle was far from over. The aftermath of their daring escape was a blur of activity. Palace guards swarmed the industrial district, securing the area and rounding up remnants of the enemy forces. Alira and Kale, battered but alive, stood amidst the chaos as dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson. Exhaustion weighed heavily on them both, yet there was an undeniable sense of triumph, a shared understanding that they had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. As the dust settled, Varn and his co-conspirators were apprehended, their treachery exposed for all to see. The Celestial Codex was returned to its rightful place within the royal archives, now protected by enhanced security measures designed by Kale himself. Though the artifact's secrets remained locked away, its mere presence served as a reminder of the resilience and unity required to safeguard their kingdom. In the days that followed, Alira addressed her people, revealing not only the truth about the assassination attempt but also the identity of her husband, not as a quiet diplomat, but as Kale Draven, protector of countless worlds. To her surprise, her subjects responded with admiration rather than anger. Tales of his bravery during the attack spread like wildfire, earning him respect even among the most skeptical nobles. It seemed that Kale's actions had won over hearts far beyond Alira's own. But it wasn't just Kale who had changed. Alira found herself transformed as well. No longer content to rule from the safety of her palace, she embraced her role as a leader willing to fight alongside her people. Together, she and Kale worked tirelessly to strengthen alliances, fortify defenses, and ensure that no threat would ever endanger their realm again. Their bond deepened with each passing day. What began as a marriage of convenience evolved into something neither of them had anticipated: love. They discovered joy in the smallest moments, sharing laughter over meals, exchanging stories of their respective worlds, and finding solace in each other's company after long, grueling days. For Alira, Kale became not just a partner in leadership, but a confidant, a friend, and eventually the father of their children. Years passed, and peace reigned across the galaxy. The Vanguard continued its mission, though Kale chose to step back from active duty, dedicating himself instead to training new recruits and advising Alira on matters of interstellar diplomacy. Their family grew, blessed with two curious and adventurous offspring who inherited traits from both parents. Their mother's regal grace and their father's unyielding courage. Life took them beyond the confines of the palace walls. Seeking a quieter existence, Kale and Alira relocated to a secluded estate nestled in the rolling hills outside the capital. Surrounded by lush gardens and breathtaking views of the twin moons, they built a home filled with warmth and laughter. Here, they raised their children, teaching them the values of compassion, integrity, and resilience. Visitors often remarked how the couple radiated happiness, their connection as strong as ever despite the challenges they had faced. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in shades of lavender and amber, Kale and Alira sat together on the porch, watching their children play in the distance. The air was cool, carrying the scent of blooming flowers and the faint hum of distant stars. "You know," Alira said softly, leaning her head against Kale's shoulder, "I never imagined my life turning out this way." "Neither did I," Kale admitted with a chuckle. "When I first arrived here, I thought this assignment would be just another mission. Instead, it became everything." She smiled, her violet eyes shimmering with emotion. "Do you regret it? Leaving behind your old life?" Kale shook his head without hesitation. "Not for a second. The family we've built, the peace we've achieved, it's more than I ever dreamed possible. You've given me a purpose greater than any mission." Tears welled in Alira's eyes, but they were tears of happiness. "And you've given me hope," she whispered. "Hope that even in the darkest times, light can prevail, as long as we face it together." They sat in comfortable silence, the sound of their children's laughter filling the air. Above them, the stars twinkled brightly, a testament to the vastness of the universe and the infinite possibilities it held. Yet for Kale and Alira, the greatest adventure of all lay not in distant galaxies or epic battles, but in the simple, profound beauty of the life they had created together. And so, they lived peacefully, their love enduring through the ages, a beacon of hope for all who dared to dream of a better future.